This is the ExtraTime.com Friday podcast. I'm Oisin Langan, and you might as well just accept it. You cannot escape the Ryder Cup this weekend, even if you don't like golf. It's one of those strange events, and I'm going to be completely unoriginal in my observation here, that in the lead up to it, it can be quite annoying. After it's on, you nearly forget it ever happened. But while it's on, you are all in. You're practically there with your face painted in the European flag colours. It'll be the exact same this weekend, so just accept that now. We'll look back on it in full on Monday with Golf Digest senior writer Ronan McNamara. Ronan also contributes to extratime.com. It's a huge weekend for the Irish rugby team as they try and qualify for the World Cup. If they can beat Scotland, they have a chance. They need a bit of a favour perhaps in the Spain-Italy game, depending on how that game goes. But hopefully they can do it, and we'll reflect on that on Monday. The United Rugby Championship, by the way, starts this weekend. Teams from South Africa, Italy, Ireland, Scotland and Wales involved. A couple of new teams in from South Africa. There's a new format. How's it going to go? Well, I guess we'll see this season. They've tweaked it and they've changed the name. It's a competition that's always had the potential but has never quite captured the imagination of the general sports fan. Rugby fans, yes. The general sports fan, no. It's got free-to-air television coverage, which is very, very important. And that's something we will talk about, by the way, free-to-air coverage and how it can benefit a sport in our chat with Stephen Finn in just a moment. Also today, look, a huge game tonight, if you're listening on Friday, in the SSE Electricity League. St. Pat's taking on Shamrock Rovers. St. Pat's really need to win if they're to have a realistic chance of taking the title. We'll hear from current Saint Robbie Benson, and we'll hear from Rovers Dylan Watts. We'll also talk to Sean Boyd of Finn Harps about why Ollie Horgan always looks behind rather than ahead when it comes to the league table, and Sean Boyd's own resurgence. As well as that, Will Patching of Dundalk will talk to us about what has been a strange season so far, and we'll have Bohemians at Georgie Kelly. I almost said Dundalk's Georgie Kelly there. We do ask him about Dundalk and the fact that he left there, but he's not in any way bitter, which is really cool. He's a great guy to chat to, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to you a little bit later on. First though, it's Stephen Finn. He's here to talk to us about the League of Ireland, the women's team winning during the week against Australia. That was a huge win. He'll also look ahead to the big Premier League clash of the weekend, Chelsea and Manchester City. Stephen, the first question, as always, is the most important one. How are you?
Very good, Oisin.
You'll know Stephen from his work as a UEFA A-licensed coach and also your football blog. Where can we catch that, Stephen?
It's futsalfin.wordpress.com.
It's always worth a read. It makes sense of football and doesn't get carried away in emotion, which sometimes we are guilty of in all aspects of life, but especially football. We'll get to the League of Ireland in a moment. We'll also talk about Manchester City and Chelsea in the Premier League. But a great result for the Republic of Ireland during the week, beating Australia 3-2. Vera Pauw said before the game, you know what, there's no point in us playing a team that are ranked low in the rankings just to get a win. We'd rather lose and learn in this particular game because it was a friendly than beat someone 5-0 and take nothing from it. It turns out they did a bit of both. They both learned and won.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what was really interesting for me looking at women's football this week? There was some colossal lopsided victories, like 10-0, 9-0, 7-0. And certainly there is a serious gap between the very best countries and the emerging nations. So Ireland could easily have picked a team just to beat them. And look, I get it. You know, I actually think what happened with the senior men when they played Andorra, despite criticism, and they didn't actually, from what I understand, they didn't pick Andorra, just a different fixture fell and Andorra came up and they decided to go for it. But obviously it got them the win that team needed. And you could have said, okay, maybe the women's team, I think they'd gone 7 in a row without a win. Maybe they could do the same. But Vera's right, you know, the sense of achievement from beating a team that's just had a great Olympics, 11 in the world, Australia, will certainly give the Irish players confidence that they can take on anybody. I know Sweden obviously are a notch above Australia, but they're not like 20 notches above them. They're a couple of notches and will be a serious challenge. But now we can go into the qualifiers thinking, you know what, when we do our stuff right, we can beat teams. What impressed me the other night, I was thrilled to see Savannah McCarthy back, because I think she is literally one of the best home produced players we've had. And I couldn't believe it's been I think like 5 years, maybe 6 years since her last cap. Because to me, she's a warrior. And Alex Ferguson always used to say, before you get off the bus, count how many warriors you have, and if you don't have 3 at least in your team, you've no chance. And Savannah's a warrior, and playing beside Louise Quinn, there's 2 out-and-out competitors straight away. And both of them had massive influences on the results. And what was also very impressive was, we got the fortunate goal to the deflections. And sometimes it seemed that luck was never coming our way with the Irish team. But when the luck went against us, a couple of the goals definitely could have been avoided. We didn't look at our toes, and maybe that warrior mentality came through the team. And to score 3 goals against Australia was brilliant. And Lucy Quinn looks like a fantastic addition, and it's probably given the team that little bit of directness and aggression in attack. We have a lot of good attacking players, who all of whom I would rate very highly. Rihanna Jarrett, Amber Barrett, Claire Shine, Saoirse Noonan, who I don't think we've seen an awful lot of yet in the green jersey, but again, someone who is super talent. But maybe they need someone who's just that little bit more streetwise and just knows our way to goal. And Lucy Quinn certainly looks like that. So I think after the tough spell that the team has been through, the sense of achievement and togetherness added to a good result at least puts them really heading in the right direction, and it's great to see.
It's great as well that there's a mix of home-based players that are in action in the Women's National League and a few who are overseas as well. It's nice to have that mix, that you can actually see these players up close at the weekend if you choose to.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what we want for all levels of Irish football is that we can give our players the best opportunity to play their sport at the highest level that they can. And sometimes that will mean someone like Kate McCabe will go and play for Arsenal, or Louise Quinn will go around Europe, or Denise O'Sullivan will go to America. But what we want is for our domestic league to get to the stage where we're paying our players to play, and we're having attendances which reflect that, and then we're having TV deals which reflect the quality of the players. Like, you only have to look at social media to see teams posting fantastic goals from the Women's National League on a regular basis. I know the efforts that the teams put in and the players put in to reach a high level, but I honestly believe there are more levels for the game in this country to reach. Despite all that, people should really understand how far women's football has come. And I don't mean this in a patronising way, but like in the 80s, 90s, having a Women's National League seemed fanciful. Now we've had a decade of the Women's National League, and I think a bit like the MLS, the Major Soccer League in America, people who would have been interested in that would have just been happy to see it last longer than the NASL that Pele played in. And I think they're heading towards 30 years for the MLS, and that's when your league starts to really grow. And for our Women's National League, heading into the second decade, we want to have more teams around the country. And I know clubs like Finn Harps and Sligo are looking at ways that they can do that. We want every talented young footballer, male or female, to have the opportunity to play at a national level in their own country. And then if they reach a level where somebody wants to pay them lovely money to play for a Champions League team or a team that's got a significant budget, well, that's great. But we want to get there, and we're not going to get there by standing still. It's by that relentless pursuit of excellence. And I think there's enough people now in women's football who understand that and want that.
In the Men's League of Ireland, tonight, as most people are listening to this podcast, which has come out on a Friday, it's St. Pat's against Shamrock Rovers. It's a big game. Before we talk about that, though, one of the big talking points from the League of Ireland during the week was not a game, even though there was plenty to talk about, with Georgie Kelly scoring one of the great goals and Dundalk beating Finn Harps 3-1 in the Cup, and Dundalk having to play a couple of young fellas who impressed, by the way. I was at Oriel Park and thought they really stood up. But anyway, one of the big talking points of the week has been a podcast. LOI Central, Declan McBennett, the head of sport of RTE, spoke to Johnny and Dan, and it has been debated ad nauseum since, even though it only came out yesterday or whatever. I appreciate you haven't had the chance to listen to the full thing yet, Stephen, but you do have your views on promoting the League of Ireland and how that can be done through TV, and maybe the fact that maybe there's a halfway meeting point between RTE or whichever broadcaster, and maybe the league itself.
Yeah, well, look, firstly, I haven't, I've only listened to snatches of what Declan said. And my personal dealings with him, I have the height of respect for him as an individual. And I genuinely think that, there's this... I don't think it's an inferiority complex. Maybe it's a persecution complex. But there's a bit of people who support League of Ireland who would look at Declan and say, "Oh, he's from GAA country, doesn't care about soccer and all that."
Well, I'll put it to you this way:
or if he does, it's only UK soccer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or I'll put it to you this way: when I was in News Talk, I used to get an awful lot. You're a rugby station, or you're a GAA station, and one that used to always make me laugh was people giving out to me about the coverage News Talk didn't do while I was at League of Ireland games. Anyway, sorry, I cut across you. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but I know Declan, during the Jack Charlton era would have been very passionate about Irish football, and his career has gone on and he's got massive responsibility. But I don't believe that RT's attitude to Irish football rests solely on his shoulders, like he's flicking some switch to decide where they're going to spend all of their money. There will be strategies that the whole organisation will want to pursue. My point on it is I do believe that the current model is set up for failure, simply because television is about consistency. To see Italian football, there'll always be a game on a Sunday evening. There'll always be a Spanish match on a Saturday evening. Sky created the Monday Night Football, and if you turn on television on a Monday night on International Week, you'd be surprised. Geez, there's no club match in the Premier League tonight, and then you realise, it's international. And because it becomes so consistent, I was making the point about Coronation Street. If Coronation Street only came out every so often, its followership would drop off dramatically. If the Sunday game live only occasionally showed a live game, I would say the attendance figures or audience figures would drop by 250,000, because the television is it's a part of it. It has to be a consistent model, and you have to understand where it is and what it's going to be. If RTE don't feel that that's what they want to do, that's okay. Let them say, right, we'll step away, and let's look. Personally, I would love to see TG Carr sit down with the FAI, with the League of Ireland, and say, look, let's do this brilliantly, because I know TG Carr can do anything they do in sport is at the highest level, and there's enough Gaeilgeoirs around Irish football that could give them a fantastic product, because ultimately around Europe, around the world, a lot of TV companies want to buy the local soccer league, because the local soccer league gives them an opportunity to embed itself in the local culture. It's the sport that most people want to buy. In Ireland, for whatever reason, it's GAA. GAA gets about 14 million a year in TV money. If Irish soccer had 14 million a year invested in it, it would be a different landscape. But in the short term, what Irish football needs is a TV partner who says, I will broadcast a game every single Friday night. I will broadcast the Women's National League at whatever time that works for them. I'll put together a big show that will have a live broadcast every week. There'll be the goals from all the other games. We'll have real proper analysis. And if that's in the Irish language, I don't think anyone would really mind. We'd all could benefit from learning the couple of football, and we would then have real consistency, and then we could honestly say, okay, our league we know it's a good league, but our league is a good package too. And then we would know what we could achieve. Doing it in a scattergun approach, it's guaranteed for failure because television is about consistency.
And TG Carr and RTE have worked together well in the past on the Women's World Cup, and they're doing it with the United Rugby Championship now as well. So it is possible. Look, let's talk about the big game over the weekend. St. Pat's taking on Shamrock Rovers. I was talking to Robbie Benson about this, and I'm referencing an interview that will be played later in the podcast, but I'm not spoiling it. And I said, Robbie, this is kind of like not a title decider, but if you don't win, I don't think you'll win the title. It doesn't mean your season is over because you still want to secure Europe. You still have the cup, but it's effectively a night that if you don't win the title or don't win the match, you've no chance of winning the title. Now, he said that's not the case, but I think realistically it is, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think traditionally, if you look at the league, whoever wins the most matches of their last 10 rounds, last 10 games generally wins the league, especially when it's the top 2 or 3. So essentially, if Sligo won all their last 10 games, that's 30 points. And they could even, because that was obviously mean they would beat Rovers and they'd beat Pats in that cycle, and it would give them an opportunity to overtake those ahead of them. But we now feel that it's going to be Pats or Rovers, and the odds are strongly in Rovers' favour as they've 6 points more and they've a game in hand. But if Pats win, then it becomes a lot closer, and then it means one little slip, as like Rovers lost to Finn Harps recently. The race stays alive. So look, we're definitely going to be seeing what I consider the best 2 teams in the division this year. There's been teams who have produced better individual moments, but in terms of those teams that have actually been consistently good, I think Rovers and Pats are up there. So it makes for a very intriguing game for me anyway.
What kind of game do you think it will be?
Well, I was just looking earlier on. I was trying to get my head around. Like, I've seen an awful lot of Pats and I've seen Rovers predominantly on television. Well, my feeling was they were 2 passing sides, and when I looked at it, it was interesting. I saw on Y Scout the average possession both teams have had. Pats have averaged 55% possession in their league games, and Rovers 60%. So something's got to give there. 2 teams that are used to dominating possession in their games. Pats were averaging just under 450 passes a game. Rovers over 500 passes a game. So you're talking about 2 teams that like to pass the ball. So we'll get a real feel for the passing quality within the league. But the worry is that they'll neutralise themselves. Both teams, on average, they'll score a goal a game. So I would anticipate, there will be goals, but I don't. I could be completely proven wrong, but I don't believe there'll be an awful lot of goals. I think it'll be quite tense, and it could be a case of who blinks first. But I think the Rovers have the edge on just they've conceded less goals. They've both scored roughly the same. I think Rovers just have that. They just seem less likely to concede for whatever reason. Now, Pats, I don't know if Lee Desmond will be fit enough to come back. He's a massive part of their team, both defensively and in the creation of the play, because he's so comfortable playing out from the back. And that will be very interesting. It will be really interesting to see who both managers can patch up to play in the game. I'm sure they will all want fellas to play through the pain barrier, and if you're a player at that level, you would want to. But I do think it's going to be quite a tense game.
I was reading somewhere, I think it was the RTE website earlier on, that not since 87-88 has a team won the league without beating one of their real competitors over 3 or 4 matches. Shamrock Rovers will fancy their chances of beating Pats tonight in what they refer to as a Dublin derby rather than the Dublin derby. And that's something I got into with Robbie Benson as to whether or not they're offended by that. But they found a way to win most games this season, Shamrock Rovers, which is what makes me kind of fancy them for this.
Yeah, and they've got a few players. who scored goals for them. Gaffney has really kicked on and has become a real key part of their attack. With 8 goals, Mandrew also and Graham Burke also with 8 goals. So like they've got players right up there amongst the top scorers in the division, and you do feel that if Plan A isn't working with personnel, Stephen Bradley can probably shuffle things around and come up with a very good Plan B. The likes of Aaron Green coming in, he might even start. It might be a game where Bradley fancies him. So
are you setting up a certain way if you start Aaron Green? Because the image I have of when they start Aaron Green is they want to try and stretch teams out a bit, and maybe he has to just accept he's ploughing a bit of a lone furrow. If I have that wrong, by the way, completely tell me.
No, I think like Aaron likes to drift left, so he's very useful in giving matches if you're playing like in Europe or whatever, where they would play teams where maybe they would play defending against a higher line or something like that. He definitely would get in behind, but I think, it's more like trying to work out where they think whatever chinks are in the St. Pat's defence are. Pats of Barrett and Bone, strong men down the centre of their defence. They'll probably like having a battle with Gaffney, so maybe they might think to give him something different to think about. Where Green might try and pull a player into a wider position and get in a one-on-one with him. That might be a tactic that Rovers might use. I think at the other end of the pitch, like Rovers' defence has been really good, but Pats are kind of like have played a front line recently where you would say that, I wouldn't say it's a false 9, but they're playing lads who have completely different attributes. Like Matty Smith looks like a winger, but has been playing more centrally. Billy King has been flitting from wing to wing. Darragh Burns to me has been one of the phenomenons of the season. He's only 19 and he's a key part of the attack on a team in the top 2 in the League of Ireland. He's great to watch. He's got, even though he's left-footed, he prefers playing on the right, cutting inside. He scored twice against Wexford doing that last week. And it'll be very interesting to see him getting 1v1 against one of the Rovers defenders, because all of the Rovers defenders are top-class players. But when you've got like a fella who can twist you inside and out, if he gets a run at you, I'm sure Pats will be looking to get Burns on the ball and doing his stuff, because I think he would fancy himself in a 1v1 against any player in the league. So like that's going to be really interesting to see how Rovers try and deal with him and how Pats look to get him on the ball in the attacking third.
Does the league and the product need a Pats win, if you follow my logic there?
Yeah, well, I said that 2 weeks ago when Pats played Sligo, and then Sligo were excellent and put a fly in the ointment for Pats that day. Although I did think at the time the goals came just to knock the momentum out of Pats when Pats looked like they were getting back in it. And yeah, look, I think there's nothing better than a title race that goes all the way to the wire. And over the years, our league usually had 2 teams going right till the last couple of games of the season. Last year was a bit of, and probably with Dundalk before that as well, there was probably a case where the race wasn't really much of a race, or didn't last long enough to be compelling. It was like watching Dublin, the Leinster Championship over the years. After a period of time, the competitiveness went out of it. So yeah, it would definitely be, if you're being neutral, it would definitely be more interesting if Pats can put another dent in the Rovers title charge. But if you're being objective, you have to say that Rovers are definitely the favourites.
Just before we move on to the Premier League, we've got Georgie Kelly coming up in a while. He kind of laughed and was very modest when I said that he scored one of the greatest goals I've ever seen in the League of Ireland during the week. Stephen, I'm prone to that. I'm prone to being a bit hyperbolic and, being a bit Sky Sportsy, seeing the positives and everything and overselling. But was I right in that case? Was it one of the best League of Ireland goals ever?
Oh, it's a beauty. But you know what? There's been so many brilliant goals. Like the goal of the season or the goal of the month, even for the last 5 years, has been just always beauties. Like, some of the goals that Forrester got over the years, some of the goals that Keith Fahey going back in the day. There's always great goals. Some of Bo's goals already this season. Um, Liam Burt has he's going all Matt Letizia scoring his own goal of the month competition. So you've got serious goal. That was a beautiful goal and a beautiful reaction, and also as to the moment where it came in the game as well, which adds to the whole drama and excitement of it. And because it took 2 touches, it looked like he had, your first instinct, it was like he's not turning it at the goal, and then suddenly, Marco van Basten style or Dennis Bergkamp style, a fantastic reaction. It's interesting, Georgie, because he'd scored goals in the first division and he looked good without ever really exciting me at Dundalk. I don't know why it didn't work for him at Pats, but Bows have really got him flying. And he's a big, strong man. He pours his heart and soul into every part of his game. So to see the ball flying in off his boot, left, right, and centre is great to see, because it's a nice story as much as anything else. And if he keeps on doing what he's doing, who knows what the next step will be for him.
Okay, let's move on to the Premier League. Chelsea taking on Manchester City. What kind of game do you think that will be? That's certainly the big one of the weekend, although some will argue Arsenal Spurs. But table position wise and title race wise, this is the one.
Yeah, City have just been, it's usually the case of if you finish ahead of City, you win the league. Has been the case for the last few years because of their resources, because of their manager, because of their players. And then obviously Chelsea had been the one before that because of a similar situation. They've gone through so many managers, unlike City have stuck with Pep now for the last few years. It is interesting, and two teams who are very different to watch. So that's what I would find interesting about them. And my gut feeling is that Chelsea's attributes are well suited to causing City a lot of problems. Like City don't let in a lot of goals usually, but if you look at, say, the Leipzig game, Leipzig got to the end line and cut the ball back, and City didn't look hugely comfortable dealing with those opportunities. And with Lukaku up there, I think Chelsea will certainly think that if they can get the ball into dangerous areas and get the ball to the back post, Lukaku would fancy himself to score. So I think that will be an interesting one. City will try and neutralise his impact, and Chelsea obviously will try and maximise it. So that's what I would find an interesting aspect of this game.
Last week, Thomas Tuchel was praised for bringing on Kante, and it changed the game. My question is, why didn't he start him in the first place? Or sometimes as a manager, do you just have to change it at halftime? And actually, you know what? It wasn't a mistake starting the team he started with.
Yeah, well, look, I think you can look at things in too much of a linear fashion, because you think your manager has set his stall out. If he doesn't react to what the opposition do, then he's a fool. So I wouldn't put Tuchel down as a fool in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes I think he overcomplicates it when, because I've never met him or anything, but what I've read about him is like he definitely would look to use more than one formation in a match, maybe even make two formation changes in the game, and sometimes he was just doing it on the sense that something happened and he maybe thinks, all right, if we change to this formation now, we'll really put this opponent to bed. But if you look back to the Spurs game, despite all that, I think like two of their goals came from corners, really. So and then the Kante goal was a massive deflection. Like, goals really change everyone's perception of what happened in a game. Chelsea were clearly the better team, but it wasn't magical play that opened up the game for them. So I don't know. I think I would say fair play to him for making the adjustments that got his team control of the game, rather than say, "Oh, you got it wrong at the start."
Okay, Stephen Finn, thank you very much for joining us once again. A reminder of where we can catch up with your football blog:
futsalfin.wordpress.com.
Stephen, thanks for joining us on the extratime.com Friday podcast.
Thank you, Oisin.
Always good to hear from Stephen Finn. Now it's time to hear from some players, including Dylan Watts of Shamrock Rovers and Robbie Benson of St. Pat's ahead of tonight's clash in Inchicore. I'm going to that match. I cannot wait. If you can't get there, you can watch it on RTE2 television. Also, we're going to hear from Georgie Kelly of Bohemians and Sean Boyd of Finn Harps, as well as Will Patching of Dundalk. SSE Electricity League FIFA 22 club match packs are back, featuring the individual club crest of 10 Premier Division teams. These exclusive sleeves will be available to download free from ea.com/games/FIFA/FIFA-22 when the game launches next Friday. That's the 1st of October. At the launch this week, I caught up with all of the players I mentioned, including Dylan Watts, and I started by asking him, as we were at a FIFA 22 launch, I thought it appropriate to talk a bit about gaming. I started by asking him if he was a gamer, if he played FIFA.
I am, yeah.
Are you any good?
I'm alright, not the best now, but I try and play anyway.
So when you play FIFA 22, will you be picking yourself, or what will you do?
I don't know, not with this year's rating anyway, but no, I don't think so.
Do you know lads who look at that and kind of go, how am I that rating? I should be a different rating.
Yeah, I know a few that think they should be 99 rated anyway, that's for sure. But no, look, it's like I said, it's great to be in the game, for the league and for the players as individuals. So it's brilliant.
Talk to me about Shamrock Rovers' season so far. Some good performances in Europe. I know on the last day you were disappointed, but in the league, look, you're top. I suppose you can't complain.
Yeah, no, I can't complain. Obviously going really well in the league at the moment. A few big games coming up, so we're looking forward to them as well. Obviously disappointing in the cup to get knocked out, because it was a competition we obviously wanted to do well in. And Europe is the same as well, to come so close to the group stages. It was obviously disappointing to fall at the last hurdle, really. But I think, since being knocked out of both, I think the focus has been on the league and getting that done. So it's going to be a tough challenge. There's tough games left, but games we're looking forward to, and hopefully can win.
Is there a bit of a chip on the shoulder of some of the Rovers players this year, or do you feel maybe you have something to prove? Because last year you won the league, and the league was the league, the competition was the competition, it was the same for everyone, but it was only 18 games, and that was kind of used as a stick to beat you with by some, and still is. Do you think you kind of need to win a full season of a league?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, there was a few people last season, because it was only 18 games, there was nothing we could do about that. We had to go and do what we had to do, and I think we went unbeaten last season, which was going to be a tough team to stop in any full season. But I think this year, we've come back focused. It was an aim at the start of the season was to win the league again, and I think there's been a focus right from first day of pre-season that was our goal, was to win the league, and everybody pushing in training and in games, pushing for places. So it's a good group of players, and like I said, we've tough games coming up, but it's very doable at the moment.
All games are big, but to fans and media, maybe some are bigger than others. Friday night's match against Pats kind of falls into that category. Is that how you look at it, given the advantage you can take if you win, or in your heads, do you just have to look at it as another game?
Yeah, and it's obviously a Dublin derby as well, so it's going to be a different atmosphere. There's obviously a different atmosphere for Dublin derbies. It's going to be a tough place to go. I don't think there's away fans allowed in, so they're going to get right behind the team. But I think as a group of players, we mainly focus on one game at a time. So look, we'll prepare the exact same that we prepare for every game. We'll have our homework done on them, and we'll go out on Friday and hopefully try and win the game.
How much of a difference does having the fans there make, good or bad? And this week I will say it's a bit different because, as you said, you know, it's going to be fairly partisan. There won't be too many Rovers voices there.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's fantastic to have fans back in the stadium. You know, it makes such a difference at games. You can notice it. You can notice it straight away. Even when there were small numbers back in the stadium, you still noticed it. And now, obviously, with the numbers increasing, you know, it's massive for the players, and I think it's also brings a bit more to the game. It brings a bit more atmosphere to the game, and I think everyone will say the same, that, you know, without the fans, it's nowhere near the same.
And what about yourself? I mean, this is an incredibly strong Rovers team, so the competition is high. The competition in the league is tough, but the competition within your own team is fairly tough as well.
Yeah, no, it is. I think, you know, we've got good competition in all areas, like the back, up front, midfield, everywhere. So, look, like I said before, I think I've said a few times, the competition only brings players on, and I think nobody's guaranteed a place in the team. So every day in training, you've got to prove yourself. Matches, you've got to prove yourself as well. So I think as individuals in the group, it pushes us on and makes sure we're at it every single day to try and be in that team on Friday.
And I imagine that stops any possibility of complacency, because look, the way it is, Rovers have great facilities, they're a great club. Pains me to say that as a Cork City fan, by the way. You can see the tear forming in my eye here. But look, that's the way it is. So it will be hard not to get complacent, but I imagine that competition stops any level of complacency coming into the players.
Yeah, it does, no, 100%, and not just in games but also in training. You know, from Monday, all the players are right at it right up until Thursday, you know, and then obviously Friday looks after itself with the match. But there's no complacency within our group. You know, everybody's pushing each day, and I think the standard of training and everything like that, you know, it's very, very high. So there's no real time for complacency within the group, and I don't think there's, obviously, some experienced pros wouldn't allow it come into the group. So it's a massive positive within our group at the moment, and long way to continue.
The image I have of the Rovers group is, if anyone gets a bit cocky, Joey O'Brien gives them a big boot. And I don't have to say where. Is that the way it is?
Right? He'd be one of them anyway. Yeah, definitely put himself forward to do that. Like I said, though, fantastic pro as well. You know, we've got loads of them, you know, experienced pros: Ronan Finn, Pico, Joey, obviously. So, you know, you got to keep. They'll keep the lads, make sure their head's screwed on. So it's good.
And what about yourself? What are the aims? I guess when a player does well or excels in the League of Ireland, we're mad to get them on a plane over to England. Do you think of it that way, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, look, I think if you're ready to go, you're ready to go. You know, it all depends on what club and style of play. You know, there's lots of stuff to it. It's not about just about if one team comes into you for England that you just jump straight on the plane. Because I think at the moment the way the league is going at the moment is very good. You've seen obviously international call-ups for players. So, like I said, there'll be no rush to get over. You know, because.
Does that take pressure off you as a player? Because it used to be the case that if a team in England, nearly any team in England came in, the club were mad to get you out the door because they might get a few quid. You were probably thinking to yourself, geez, I have to take this. Whereas now, you're at Rovers, you don't kind of need to make a big jump. And it's the same for maybe a couple of players at a couple of clubs. Yeah,
no, you're 100% right. I think, obviously, if the right club comes in for you or whatever, you know, there's lots of stuff behind it. Obviously, if the club want you to go, it's financial stuff as well, you know. So, but like, I think if you, especially at the top clubs here, you know, I don't think people will be jumping on the plane just to get over to England, just to say they're in England, you know. I think, like I said already, with the international call-ups and stuff like that, then maybe your time might come to go away, but I don't think you'd be rushing away just for the sake of it, you know.
Dylan Watts of Shamrock Rovers speaking as EA Sports announced the return of FIFA 22 SSE Electricity League club packs. Also at that launch was St. Pat's Robbie Benson. They go into tonight's game against Rovers 6 points behind and with a game more played. I asked him how he feels their season has gone so far.
From the outside looking in, we've probably exceeded what was expected of us so far, but within ourselves and the group, we could see at the start of the season the quality that we had throughout the squad, and you know, we're where we would have expected ourselves to be, you know, in the mix for the title and into a cup semi and hopefully a cup final in time. So it's exciting times for the club, and it's been an enjoyable season and very I won't say successful because we haven't won anything, but very you know, we're on track should I say, to where we expect of ourselves.
And you've got this far playing a nice brand of football as well, which is pleasing for fans. And I'm sure as players, pleasing for you, because when a manager puts confidence in you and says, I believe you can play football, that must be a good thing for players.
Yeah, Stephen and Alan and all the coaching staff are very, they want us to play up through thirds and play good football. But the thing that's most expected of us is our work rate and our attitude. And once that's on point, that's what they're really looking for of us on a Friday. And I think that's kind of shone through. And I think you can see that from us, and the crowd, that since they've been back have recognised that in us, and they can see the attitude and the commitment to the players that they're given every week. And I think that the fans get a buzz off that. They come down on a Friday night and see the players on the pitch, working hard for them to get a result. It's really kind of helped us get a good connection between ourselves and the fans, and it's something that we've noticed as players, and it's been good since they've been back. We've won 8 out of 8, so it's been good enrichment for us, and hopefully that'll continue this Friday.
They seem to be an appreciative crowd. I mean, for a lot of fans, we watch the clips of great moments of skill or great goals or whatever, but what we won't appreciate is the run made off the ball or the run to get the ball back. Is that as important to you as those nice sprayed passes and those nice runs into the box that you make to get on the end of a cross?
Yeah, look, anyone can make a mistake with the ball, but if you're just not, the baseline is hard running and working hard for the team and tackling and being competitive. So that's the bare minimum you expect, and then obviously we have talented players who can express themselves when we have the ball, and we've scored a lot of good goals this year, and I think we're the highest scorers in the league if I'm not mistaken. So that's a product of the work we do on the training pitch to put ourselves in those situations and score goals.
And as one of the senior players, I won't say older, I'll say senior, more experienced players, do you see it as your role to say to some of the young lads, look, you need to work, you need to run, because they might sometimes listen more to a fellow player than they might a manager. They can be told something, but sometimes maybe they need to be shown something.
Yeah, it's more, I'd probably say it's more setting an example yourself and what you do. And the senior players, like myself, Burmo, John, Paddy, Lee Desmond, Chris Forrester, probably the older ones in the team. If we're not running, if we're not being competitive, if we're not doing the right things, applying ourselves in the gym, the younger lads who've been brilliant for us this year, they can just turn around and say, well, if they're not doing it, then why should I do it? So it's important for us from that sense, but there hasn't been any instances of that this year. And as I said, it's a really enjoyable group to be a part of, and there's a good bond in the team now.
I think Burmo's in his 40th season of League of Ireland football, isn't that right?
Wouldn't be far off.
In or around that, yeah. A big one on Friday night. Do you look at it as a big one, or do you just look at it as another game? Because I think it's fair to say if you don't win this, you're out of the title race. It doesn't mean the season is over, but it looks like the title race would be done if you don't win this one.
We approach it as any other game. Preparation is the same, but there's no getting away from it that it is a big game. We could win on Friday and not go on to win the title, but I don't think we're out of it if we don't win either. So there's a long way to go yet, but obviously, a win would be crucial for us at this stage with the games running out. And if we do go on to win the game on Friday, it'll give us a right good boost. Going in and putting the pressure on Rovers, and it'll be a right battle between the two teams going on, for the last few games of the season.
Do you especially look forward to these kind of games, because throughout your career you've always stood up in big games?
Yeah, I've played in a lot of them, so I'm sure you can find a lot of them where I didn't play so well either. So I wouldn't go with that one, but. They're the games. They're kind of the games that you are measured on in your career, and it'll probably be of all the games this season, maybe apart from the European games for the clubs who are in Europe, it's the game that most eyes will be on so far, anyways. So I'm sure all the players will be looking to give a good account of themselves, and as a club and a team, we want to show how far we've grown and how far we've come this year, and the preparations have been good this week, and I've no doubt that we'll show a good of account of ourselves on Friday.
Do you get annoyed as Pats players that Bohs and Rovers is called the Dublin Derby, whereas this is referred to as a Dublin Derby?
Well, I suppose the history of the game, Bows Rovers would be considered the biggest, but I suppose big derbies and big rivalries are created when teams are really really going for it. I was involved with the Dundalk Cork rivalry when I played with Dundalk, and like no history between those two teams, but because they were successful, then the rivalry became bigger. So it's on us as a team to put ourselves in a position to be going neck and neck with Rovers for that rivalry to go bigger as the years go on from now. And Bows are still in the cup. We might meet in the cup semi or the final if we both get there. So again, that derby could grow bigger if we're both competing for honours at the same time.
Robbie Benson of St. Pat's speaking to the extratime.com Friday podcast ahead of tonight's clash with Shamrock Rovers in Inchicore. That's presuming that you're listening on Friday. I'm really looking forward to that. If you can't get there, it's live on RTE television and you can follow it through extratime.com. Now, the man of the moment is Georgie Kelly. What a goal he got on, was it Monday night against Derry City? It was deep in injury time. It looked like Bows were going to lose 3-2, and that would have been a huge blow to their European aspirations, league-wise anyway. I know they're still in the cup. But up stepped Georgie Kelly to get what I think is one of the best goals ever scored in the League of Ireland. Although, as I said to Stephen Finn earlier on, maybe I'm overhyping that. I have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to get overexcited. Anyway, I speak to Georgie about that goal in this interview. But first, I asked him if him or anyone around him is a big gamer. I think that was a relevant question considering we were at the launch of the FIFA 22 SSE Electricity League match packs.
Yeah, I live with a few lads, named Scots, two Scots and Stephen Mallon, who are obsessed with it. They never leave the thing, but it's great.
And will they be picking you to play as? How's your rating?
Actually, I haven't heard my rating yet. I know them two got theirs, but Ollie and Limo got theirs the other night, but no, I haven't heard mine yet, no.
Well, I imagine if the ratings were done after Monday night, yours would be somewhat higher. Talk to me about one of the greatest goals that's ever been scored in the SSE Electricity League. No, it is. No, jokes aside, it is. Don't be modest.
But no, yeah, it was a decent goal. I probably won't score many more of them in my career. So it's nice when you do score them, and it's also nice. I was just saying there that it's the league have kind of upped their kind of game around social media and marketing, where it gets marketed now. All the goals. You even look at Flores' goal, and because they're all caught in camera and they're uploaded so quickly, it's great. So they spread so quickly, and I've had family members who would never see League of Ireland games or goals text me saying, "Oh, I've seen your goal," and so it's credit to the league and the SSE Artistic for kind of pushing that and increasing that kind of awareness around the league. It's good for the league, I think.
I think it means something to players as well. When people are watching what you're doing, it does mean something. When someone sends you that text going, "Nice goal," it must mean an awful lot.
It does, yeah. It just ups the whole profile of everything you're doing, and makes everything a little bit more relevant. So it's definitely a nice little touch, yeah.
Talk to me about the goal. Talk me through the technicalities of it, if you possibly can.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying there earlier too to someone else there, a reporter. What happened? What happens is I get a lot of them crosses from them semi-wide areas, and I always try to head them, and they would just, because there's not loads of pace on it, the keeper would just catch them. They go into keeper's hands, because the pace of the cross and where it's coming from a little bit deep, it has to be a great header to score. So I just said, I'm not heading it this time. I just said I jumped, tried to take it down, and just turned and headed over my shoulder, and lucky it went in. Yeah, so it was great.
And is that something you can practice? Maybe not that exact same move, but running onto a ball like that in training and telling lads, right, put it into this area, I'll try and do something with it, or how does it work?
No, you don't really. That's kind of instinct. Yeah, I know. My touch off my chest has got a little bit better recently throughout training and through over the years. But no, it's all kind of instinct. Is all that is really. It's a heat of the moment game. You're trying to get in front of someone and just take it down and turn and hit it. There's nothing special about it. It's just a look, fingers crossed, then it went in.
I don't know the numbers, but you're a striker in form. I think we can say that for certain. Do you only do stuff like that? Like that goal you got on Monday night, if you're in form, if you've got confidence?
Possibly, yeah. Confidence is massive in games and especially in strikers. You're probably right, yeah. If I hadn't scored in a few weeks, and I probably don't do that. I'd probably try to take it down, lay that off, or as you say, try to head it and keeper catches it. So it comes with it, yeah. Confidence is a valuable asset, in sports, and I always think it's interesting. I feel like managers should be should be kind of a lot more focused on like how can I instill confidence within all these players. I feel like managers maybe don't zone in on that enough, because it's a huge factor. Like if you can get your players to play, no matter what, to play, playing with confidence, massive boost. Like it's extra 10 or 15%, but it's obviously just a lot more difficult than it's what it is to say. Like so.
How could a manager do that?
I don't know. I was really listening. There are different little bits about it, and about different types of drills. Say if you say you're just to say to a player, like, show me there now how. Say if you're, for example, you're in a film and you have to portray a professional footballer, so go out there now and pass and shoot and finish like you're like you're one of the best players in the world. And if you can constantly play, so this is a psychologist talking about this, or some idea he had. If you can constantly train and play where you can instill that within players, to have like that kind of freedom, you increase what a player can do, and that aura kind of the surrounds players, and it's great. Like,
this will seem silly because I'm about to compare one of my junior B hurling sessions to your elite football. But basically, I remember making one of my many mistakes, and the manager said, I'm not going to tell you you're useless because you'll believe you're useless. Now, it happens I am useless, but you guys are different. If a manager says to you, listen, try it, keep going, I'm not going to slag you off for trying something, or even if you have a particularly bad game and the manager says, you know what, I know you didn't do that on purpose, keep trying, keep working, and they just try and be a bit more positive. Does that help build confidence?
Yeah, it does. It's the psychological side of the game, like that, and managers are kind of well in tune with that, and they're becoming more and more in tune with that. Maybe 10 or 20 years ago that might have been a little bit different, but managers are kind of jumping on board now and realising that, players, if you can take a little bit more kind of self-care with players, that they'll reward you then. Like, and even fans, I've noticed it with Bows fans in particular, where they don't really get on your back as much as other fans that I would have encountered, like, where you can make mistakes but you can hear fans kind of encouraging more, and players hear that, like, rather than you hear moans. I know some places.
Is that because they know that Keith Long has done a great job in building up this team? He knows that you're not on the money that other clubs are, and they appreciate that. They get it.
I think so. They understand that, and they know that no matter what, them players they're trying, and they'll run themselves into the ground for you. And that's kind of instilled within the club, and the fans are part of it as well. And everyone's kind of on the same page, and we know that we're all doing our best to try and push on and do as well as we can. And it's a nice tight unit, like.
I go out with a Dundalk fan, and every time you score goals now, I can see a little tear in her eye, and she doesn't want to talk about it, so I don't push her on it. But is there an element of I told you so for you in Dundalk?
No. There's not none of that. No.
Is it just one of these things? Football works that way.
That's how football is, and that's the way it works. That's just the way it works. And that, you probably, as you stay in the game, you learn that. Then you fit. There's different fits and different styles, and that's how football works, and it's a game of, it's subjective. Like, people have different opinions. There's no right and wrong, in football. And that's there's definitely no hard feelings about Dundalk at all. No.
And come here, just before I let you go, every time a player goes on a good run or plays well, we shout for two things as fans: get him into the Ireland squad, and the second is get him on a plane to England. That's a compliment. But it seems to me that you're not in a rush to do any of those things. You'd like the Ireland thing, I'm sure, if it came along. But there's no kind of... You don't seem like you're kind of, angling for a move here or anything like that.
No. I know some players are different, and some players can't do everything they can to get over there and to get across and get on the boat. Like, but for me, as you say, I'm still in education. I'm doing a master's here, and there's more to it than just this club wants you, away you go. Like, everything, there's a lot of moving parts, like, so it's not as straightforward with me as it probably is with a lot of other players. I'm in no rush. I'm kind of happy and content now at the minute where I'm at. Yeah,
and the Bulls fans would be happy to hear that. And just before I let you go, how important is that to have that kind of and just before I let you go, how important is it to have an education? You're currently doing a master's at the moment. Is that good to have something else outside of football? Is that good for your football both now and when you finish football?
Massive, yeah. And I think more and more young players are kind of buying into it and doing the same, and getting degrees and doing undergrads. And even at Bows then, because they kind of train part-time, it allows players then to maybe go and try and do a master's or do something else during the day. It gives them that kind of flexibility. But in this league in particular, it's like you need to have, and players all know this now, and they're well, and the FAI and that have done different programs and different days, and I've spread information around how important it is to get your education, and have something there to fall back on, because this league's so unpredictable and things can happen, and you're not playing at the standard of high, English, professional footballers or different places around the world. So you need something, and it's great that it's growing. UCD is actually a big part of it as well. UCD is a great part of it. It was a great setup for me, for a young player to go in, get a good education in UCD and play football at a good level. It's another very attractive option for players all around the country, I think, at the minute. Yeah.
How many times have you watched the goal back since Monday night?
I don't know. Yeah, quite a few. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, just because I don't know how I've done it. That's why.
I can guarantee you haven't watched it back as much as I have. Georgie, thank you and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Not at all. Cheers.
Well, patching of Dundalk, you're through to the cup semi-finals as we speak. It's the afternoon after the night before. Talk to me about that game, because it was a real roller coaster, wasn't it, in Oriel Park last night?
Yeah, no, it was a tough game for us. We made hard work of it, taking it extra time, and got the job done in the end. And I think the crowd played a good part in it. It was good to see the fans back in big numbers, and they pushed us on. So, like I said, it was a good result in the end, and hopefully we can kick on from there now.
You reacted very well when they got the goal. It would have been easy to go the other way because you've had a tough season at times. You had a very tough week. That's been talked about in the lead-in. So you must have been pleased with how you reacted.
Yeah, it was good character from the boys, and just shows the type of characters we've got in the group. To go behind, especially against Harps, tough team to play against, and go on to win 3-1. It's a hard task to do. So like I said, happy to get the job done, and hopefully we can put in a few more good performances from now to the end of the season.
What was the thinking at the end of normal time before extra time? Because the theory was, and I was sitting in the stand beside a load of Dundalk fans who were worried that because you just about had a squad together for this game, that maybe Harps would have had a bit of extra energy and you wouldn't have had the experience at the bench that you normally have. But obviously it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. No, we finished strong, especially in extra time, getting the 2 goals. So it shows what kind of team we can be, and brought out the maybe grittier side of us, where we had to dig deep, and boys coming in, and like Mayo playing centre back, a young boy, and Dara playing centre back who's out of position and probably 70% fit as well. It just shows the type of characters we've got in a group, and shows that we play for each other. And maybe the results haven't been there this season, but I think we've put in a few good performances, and once we sort out conceding the sloppy goals and scoring more of our chances, I'm sure we'll get a lot more points on the board before the end of the season. Sorry.
You mentioned Mario there, and at one point in extra time he was leaning over with his hands on his knees, and I said it to Aoife, my girlfriend, who's a Dundalk fan. I said, I'm worried, he's young, is he tiring? About 30 seconds later, he took the ball on the edge of the box and slallomed out up to midfield and carried it out of midfield. It was an amazing moment.
No, yeah, he was class yesterday, especially to I think it was his full debut at home, and he put in a solid performance against a tough striker as well. In Sunday he's a good player, so he put in a real solid performance for us, and it's what we needed. With our centre backs out at the minute, he stepped in and made a name for himself. So I'm sure I'll be putting thoughts in Vinny's head now for the next few games.
There's a lot of talk around the club and about the club. Is that tough as players? Because I know you try and block it out, and the only noise that you need to hear is the manager and yourselves, but it must be tough to block that out because there's so much debate.
Of course, no matter how much you try to block it out, you still hear things, and like I say, we're all human beings at the end of the day. We do hear and read things, so I'm sure it has been tough for the lads in that sense, but like I said, in one way it's only us to blame for that people are making that noise about us, so we've just got to turn it into positive noise and focus on ourselves, stay together, which we have done, and we've got a close-knit group, so I'm sure we'll be fine and hopefully get a few more results in.
How much did last night's result mean to stay in the cup? Because it looks like Europe can't be achieved through the league, and for this club and the players you have and the squad you have, I think Europe is a minimum expectancy. So how much does it mean to effectively kind of keep the season alive by being in the semi-final?
No, it was in one sense it was probably our biggest game of the season last night, getting a result and keeping the cup alive, because like you said, it is a chance to get into Europe, and being in the position we're in at the minute in the table, Europe is, like you said, looking unlikely, and the cup is one way to get there. So we've still got to focus on the league, you know, and getting the results in to get out of the position we're in at the minute. But I'm sure with more performances like last night, we can do that in the league and retain our cup title as well. So,
is it a different kind of mentality required for the league and what's left there, because the focus there is getting out of relegation trouble, a battle that Dundalk haven't had for quite some time? This bunch of players wouldn't be used to that kind of situation with Dundalk anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's not a position the boys have been in before, or much of. So it'll take a strong mentality to get out of it, and a different side of us that maybe the boys haven't shown in the past. Like I said, the grittier side. So we've got to dig in for each other and just focus on getting 3 points every game.
And I think it's fair to say that last night the crowd showed that they're behind you. They might have their issues with the ownership, but I think it's fair to say the town is behind you. I had a walk around the stadium before the game, and there was a great atmosphere, and people just wanted to get behind the team. That means a lot, doesn't it, to the players?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was great to see the fans last night in big numbers in the stadium, and singing all the way through the game and cheering us on. And we just need to give back to them now, and the only way doing that is by getting the 3 points and each game. So hopefully we can do that.
And finally, Will, we're here for the launch of FIFA 22. Are you a gamer? Are you a big player?
Yeah, I'm a player.
Are you any good?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'll happily take anyone on and be confident. So I like FIFA. Yeah, it's a good game, and play in Dundalk. So yeah, it'll be good. Can't wait to get it and give it a go.
And will you play as yourself? Will you play as Dundalk?
I'm not sure. I'm more of a PSG player on it myself, especially now Messi's there.
Sean Boyd of Finn Harps. As we speak, unfortunately, it's less than 24 hours after you went out of the Cup, but I think you can take an awful lot of pride from the performance on Friday night, and maybe even take some positives from the performance in Oriel Park last night, especially your goals.
Yeah, no, I thought the game on Friday, obviously, that's been talked about enough. There was a lot of character shown with the lads playing for 60 minutes with 10 men, and to get back into the game was very impressive. So last night it was a bit, I thought in spells we were probably the better team, and maybe just a couple of errors or a couple of lapses of concentration for myself included, it just kind of cost us in the end.
Is it frustrating that you didn't really drive on an extra time when maybe the theory would have been that they, with their lack of numbers, were tiring, and you would, I suppose, a full enough squad should have been able to drive on?
Yeah, I don't know. Like Dundalk are a full-time team, like they're in everyday training with the lads at Finn Harps. They're walking away, it's a different lifestyle when you're playing full-time and as to when you're working and playing in the evenings. It's a big strain on the body. So I don't know. It's not an excuse for that, but just I might come into it, with extra time, maybe a bit of concentration or just a last little push to have a go, but it just wasn't to be in the end. It's disappointing, but that's what it is.
How important is it to drive on from here until the rest of the season?
Yeah, no, it's very important. Listen, you just got to put the head down now and go again. We play Bowls now, who are obviously a brilliant team, on Friday, and we're just going to have to see how that goes. But you don't want to just end the season and just kind of see it go out in a little stalemate. You want to push on and try to get as high up the table as possible, because it's still so close now. You'll be checking every week and you don't know who's where. So all it takes is a couple of results and you're back up the right end of the table there. So.
And what way are you looking? Up or down? Because it could go either way at this stage, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. And listen, Ollie wouldn't have us looking anywhere other than what's behind us. But you know what? As players, you probably want to have a look at, taking a little step up and seeing how it goes, and seeing if there's any possibility of finishing higher up than last season maybe, or you just don't know. So you're gonna have to take it, I suppose, you see game by game and see how that goes. But but we need to, obviously the most important thing is staying in the division. But if there is a chance to have a look above us and see if we can catch someone, why not do it?
What about you? It must be great to just be back playing football, because look, we see it all the time. Footballers get injured. You were a little bit different because the fans, we actually saw it in that documentary, and we kind of got an insight into the pain it caused you mentally and physically. So how good is it to be back?
No, it's great. And listen, come here, full credit to Paul and Ollie. Paul Haggerty there, he's the two of them have trusted me. They've brought me in. I wanted to come. I had a good pre-season there, and they offered me a contract and they offered me a chance to sign, and you know, it's full credit to them, because if they had torn me away, you know, who knows what had happened. So no, listen, we just like it's obviously a great feeling, you know, you're back involved in the team, and now the last few games to be playing a decent part in the result or whatever. So you know, I'm happy enough.
And when those goals went in on Friday night, and even last night's goal went in, did you kind of think to yourself, I'm back, I'm fully at it again, or how does it work? How do you think?
Well, I don't know. That's probably a funny question. Now, last night, you know, the goal last night I thought was probably the best goal I scored. Like it's a good goal. Like I'm not gonna lie. It's like a decent finish. Like, and watching it back, I've done well and stuff like that. But like, you know, during the game and in spells, I felt, you know, like aside from the goal, I felt like, you know, I feel all right here. Probably just a bit of fitness maybe I need to catch up on, but you know, I felt, you know, fit to a certain stage, and I felt sharp, and you know, that's just, it's been a long time since I've probably played a lot of football, and you know, it's probably a while since I've been feeling like that. But you know, it just last night I've kind of had a little think to myself during the game. I said, geez, I feel all right here, so that's how it is.
And it's good to see. And just before I let you go, you mentioned Ollie there, kind of looking backwards rather than upwards. He seems to, as Owen Toll walks by, he seems to, in public, talk in kind of negative terms. But obviously, he's a positive individual, because you guys always look very motivated when you're playing under Ollie. Yeah,
it was just because the man he is, he's an honest man. You know, you don't get any bullshit with him. He's straightforward, and he look out for his players. That's, you know, that's what you get when you show people that. He's like a people person. He gives respect and he gets it back. So that's just what it is about Ollie and Paul and stuff. Listen, there's no they won't be cuddling you and telling you you're doing great, and or what. They won't be like mammying you, if you know what I mean. But they tell you what's what, and you know, that's what you want as a player. You know, that's all you can ask for. And you see the results and performances that the team put in, and you know, you look at Mark Hoyle there. Like he probably gets a horrid time off a few of the coaches and stuff like that, but every single week he's man the match. You know, he covers some amount of ground, and that's because Ollie has put together a squad of players who are such good characters, and the staff themselves. You know.
Sean Boyd of Finn Harps, they play Bohemians tonight. It was interesting to get an insight into the management of Ollie Horgan, and I hope when he says that Horgan gives Coyle a hard time, it's kind of like a joking footballery hard time as opposed to an actual hard time. That's it from me. As always, we're back on Monday when we'll look back on the SSE Electricity League Premier Division and First Division weekend. There's a bunch of fixtures also in the SSE Electricity Women's National League. Cork City taking on UCD Waves, Bohemians up against Peamount, who very much are in the driver's seat regards the title. Galway take on Treaty United, and Wexford Views take on Athlone. Next Tuesday, it's UCD Waves against Wexford. Shelbourne have to sit and wait until next week to play in the league when they face UCD Waves. We'll also look back on Monday on the Ryder Cup with Ronan McNamara of extratime.com and Golf Digest. And we'll take a look at the United Rugby Championships opening weekend. That's it from me. Remember, if you want to talk to us or have anything to say about the podcast, you can do so via Twitter at Oisin Langan, or you can get us on at Extra Time News. We'll talk to you Monday. Take care. Have a nice weekend.